Hey guys, today we're going to look at the new agent Gekko through the eyes of various content creators who had early access to him. Unfortunately, I was not one of those people, but that's okay. Since the agent is out now, I'm going to go over his abilities first, and then we'll dive into some content creator gameplay to get familiar with his playstyle. We'll even take a look at some really cool tech that you might not even have seen yet, so stay tuned for that. Alright, that's it for the intro, let's get into it. All right, so now I'll show you each ability that Gekko has. The first one being Mosh Pit. Second one is Wingman. Third one is Dizzy. And fourth one is Thrash. And as you can see, all three of them, except for the Mosh Pit, transform into these little orbs that you can pick up, just like an ultimate orb. And then as you can see on the bottom, it has a 10-second cooldown. Except the only difference with Thrash is that when you use it again, that is the final time that you can use it. And with the other abilities, you can use indefinitely until the round ends, basically. So as you can see, we're going to use it again. And it's done. All right, so let's talk about Mosh a little bit. So Mosh is essentially this gigantic molly that surrounds a area. And after about 4 seconds or so, 4 or 5 seconds, it explodes and does a ton of damage in an area of effect. This lighter green area does 50 per tick, and there's 3 ticks, just very fast, rapidly. And this darker green area on the edge of the mosh pit does 25 per tick, so 75 total, and the inner does 150, which is equivalent to a kill with full shields. So I'll demonstrate that here with the damage bot, so you can see exactly what I mean. So that's full damage, 150, 3 ticks. And then now he's on the outer darker green side, and that is 75 damage total for 3 ticks. So the next ability is Dizzy, which is a flash or blind ability that is your free signature ability, and it sprays you with some kind of blue substance. Not really sure what it is, but that's okay. And it blinds you for about 1 second or so. So we'll watch Sean Gares here, get hit with this ability, and as you can see, blue substance on the screen for a little bit. It sort of acts like a Reyna Leer and a Skybird in the way that it kind of floats up and uses line of sight to detect enemies. In the way that it's similar to a Skybird is the fact that it calls out enemies that you tag. So it's a really good ability for getting info as an initiator. It has 20 HP, just like most destructible abilities in Valorant now. So it takes, a bullet to kill it, and the range seems to be pretty far. Here's another clip that we can watch from Sean, where he tests the range, and it's about 45 meters or so. So if you see here, throws it straight up, shoots it with a projectile, and that's about 45 meters away. So Wingman functions very similarly to a raised boombot in its behavior. It lasts for about 5 seconds, same as raised boombot, unless it tracks onto someone and then chases after them. And then obviously we'll get to the bomb plant and defuse things a little bit after, but I just want to show you exactly how this works through a clip from Looty-Loo, who uses it very effectively here in mid on Ascent. Throws it out, bounces off a wall, sees an enemy, concusses them, combined with a Killjoy alarm bot, and he gets the kill. Also, the concuss blasts you in a cone shape very similar to Yoro's clone. So just kind of think about it that way. The other really cool thing about Wingman is that it can obviously plant and defuse the spike. I'm sure you've seen many clips before if you've seen any kind of content on the new agent yet. So here we'll take a look at that from Sean again. You can actually do this from Mound on Lotus, and he'll actually run all the way around onto site and plant in the corner. Pretty insane. I could see this getting nerfed at some point in the future. And Sean actually comments here that you actually do get an ult point from this as well, so it's another little side benefit from it. And a quick note on that, you do have to have the spike in your inventory in order for it to work. You can actually see here that there's this little spike indicator that shows where the spike will be planted by Wingman. Also, if you want to get this to work, you do have to right click it, or whatever your alt fire is. Most of us is right click unless you're a psychopath, but that's, I don't judge. And here we'll watch another clip of Sean using it in action on Ascent, gets a kill. The little guy starts to defuse. He gets it to half, which is crucial here. Sean comes in and tries to finish the guy off. Gets a kill. and just barely gets the spike defuse. It was almost close enough where he would have needed to get half in order to get the plant off. So you can see how useful Wingman is in these 1v1 situations, 2v2 situations. Another side note on that, if you die while Wingman is defusing or planting, he will continue the animation as if, you know, you didn't really matter. So the only time this doesn't apply is if you are the last one on the team on attack or defense and he's defusing or planting. If that's the case, then he will no longer plant or defuse. So finally, the ult, pretty insane ability. It's basically a faster Sky Dog that is also an AoE Killjoy lockdown, which lasts about 6 seconds. So Killjoy's lockdown, I believe, is 8 seconds. So this is a couple seconds less, but it can be controlled, you know, like a Sky Dog and goes much faster. Basically a Sky Dog on steroids with a Brim Stim. So you'll see that in action here, actually being used against Sean and his teammates. And he kind of gets a little freaked out by it. So let's take a look at that here. They get the bomb planted down. He throws up a Dizzy to flash. And here comes the Psycho Fish, and Sean loses his mind. And he can't get out and gets killed. Something I want to point out here, actually, when Sean gets hit, he thinks that all 2 of his teammates, including himself, get hit. But if you notice, the Killjoy is actually unaffected, because the Thrash explodes, breaking line of sight of the Killjoy, because the Killjoy is actually behind the triple stack boxes. So if you look here, sorry for the scream again, but if you look here, the Killjoy is actually throwing a molly. You can kind of see it right on the side here. So the Killjoy actually did not get hit by the Thrash. So it is a small area of effect, about 5 meters or so. I haven't really tested it completely, but it's somewhere in that region of 5-6 meters, something like that. The other important thing to note is that it does have a lot of health. In fact, it has 200 HP, which I believe is what Killjoy's ult also has. So killing this thing is not going to be easy if it's just you shooting it, especially if you have a weaker gun like a sidearm, some kind of pistol. So good luck if that's the case. All right, so now I want to show you guys a quick little mechanic that I learned that you can use with Thrash that makes it even harder to kill, believe it or not. If the speed of the ability wasn't enough, now you're going to see something that's even more broken. With Thrash, you can actually bunny hop, you know, as if you were playing with, you know, a normal agent. So let me show you what that looks like. So normally, you throw it out, you know, you can, you know, kind of swim around. You actually don't even have to press, you know, I'm taking my hand off the keyboard. You actually don't even have to hold down W. It automatically goes full speed, and you can kind of just control it like this. So that's how you normally use them. However, if you want to be even harder and more obnoxious to hit, you can actually bunny hop around. Like if you ever played Spike Rush and you get the speed boost, that's exactly what this is like. So if you think about it this way, look how hard it is for me to get hit right now. It's actually insane, and you'll get basically a guaranteed detain on them. So have fun with that one. So this clip is from a show match in VCT Lock-In, where a bunch of content creators and professional players played in front of a huge audience at the tournament, showing off the new agent. And here's a really good clip that I like from Tarek, where he uses the Wingman to get the spike onto site safely, and even does it through a smoke, which I really like, because it shows that you don't actually need to look directly at the site. You can just look in the direction in a smoke, right click, and send the little guy in, plant safely, and now, you know, you basically have a 6-man doing a job that the 5th man would normally do. So here we have another clip from streamer and YouTuber Ethos, who is a very good player, and here he's using the Mosh ability along with a Fade Seize to keep the enemies trapped in one spot, and that gigantic AoE of the Mosh Pit just takes out 2 enemies very easily. Extremely strong combination of abilities. There's even a Harbor ult that comes out. He gets flashed. A bunch of things are happening. And then boom, easy 2 kills. So you can see the power of the Mosh Pit in action here. Pretty insane. So here's another clip I really like from Ethos, showing the power of the Wingman planting on site without even having to really enter site. And a Viper orb comes out. He sends it right into the Viper orb so they can basically remain in garage if they want to, but Ethos comes out, gets killed, but the plant is still coming down. The spike is still being planted, and they ended up losing the round, but it's still a great demonstration of how even if you die, it doesn't matter. So here's actually one of my favorite clips that I've seen so far of the new Agent Gekko, coming from Lulu again. If you don't know who Lulu is, he's a Radiant Harbor main, insane player, very good mechanics. So you'll see that in action here, and you'll just see the power of using a bunch of the Gekko abilities together, and just take a look for yourself. So he throws up the Dizzy first, flashes Ethos walking out, takes out the Thrash, sees 3 enemies, actually only gets 2 here, but gets a collateral shot, or almost collateral, and then gets the 4K, or the ace actually. Pretty insane. So this last clip I want to show off is actually from Timmy, who is in a 2v2 situation, and that's where I think these abilities combined together will make for some very strong, powerful plays that can really give you the advantage in these situations when you're in a 2v2. It almost becomes a 3v2 because of how powerful Wingman can be while you're planting and while you're focusing on fighting the enemy team. So let's take a look at this one. He actually gets a recharge on his Thrash, spots an enemy and screens, and even though he gets shot by the Sova, he's still able to detain him. And then he throws down his Wingman, gets a pick, Spike goes down and doesn't even have to worry about the Spike, and then kills the Sova at the very end. So that's how powerful this new agent can be in a clutch situation. Okay, so really quick, I found this thread on Twitter from Tombiz, and they show off a bunch of different ability combos and interactions from Gekko and Wingman, just showing how powerful the little guy can be. So let's take a look at that. So this is him against a Sage Wall. Doesn't really break through right away. The wall fortifies, but it appears that he's still coming because he really needs to plant that Spike. He's not going to stop until that thing gets planted. This is him versus a Cypher Trap. Just barrels through it like it's nothing. So here's another one that's actually kind of funny. The turret doesn't actually recognize Wingman as an enemy combatant. So he's just going to plant, and the turret's going to be like, it's fine. Just go ahead, dude. It's fine. I'm not going to hurt you. So interestingly, it's also immune to lockdown. You know, lockdown doesn't affect abilities, right? So this is just another ability. So this could come in handy in a bunch of different situations. Same thing with KO Knife, doesn't get stopped because usually abilities that you don't control and are autonomous continue their pathing, similar to Raze's Boombot, where even if you get suppressed, the Boombot will still continue on its path. So here's another interesting interaction with the ultimate ability Thrash. If you are suppressed while you're operating the Thrash, it will disappear because, you know, just like any other ultimate ability, you will lose the ability to use that ultimate. Here's another one. The Wingmans kind of just go by each other and don't interact with each other at all. We have Astra's Gravity Well. Pretty interesting, but he does keep going to, you know, plant the Spike. So even if it does suck him, he's not giving up. So the Seize actually has no effect on him at all. This is another interesting one that I didn't realize, but there's actually a range limit. It's very high, you know, it's probably like 50 meters or something like that. This is an example on Haven. You know, as long as you have line of sight and you can see the outline of the Spike, he will run all the way up there and, you know, plant it. He'll find a way. Finally, my thoughts on Gekko and Gekko's abilities, and just kind of how I think the agent's going to be played and what maps he's going to be good on, etc. So similar to Fade in the way that he can use his abilities very quickly in succession, I think he's going to be kind of a similar, potentially aggro or aggressive character where you're going to spam all your abilities right away, and he can play very aggressively on attack. So the abilities being on cooldown for 10 seconds after picking up the orb might be a little bit too strong, and I can see this being nerfed pretty quickly. I feel like that 10-second cooldown is a little bit much. It's a little bit much, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So the reason why people are saying that Wingman being able to plant is so strong is because you're essentially adding a 6th man into the attack while you're planting, or diffusing really. So that 6th man is changing the, you know, dynamic of how the game works. And, you know, instead of having someone planting and being completely out of the game, now you have an extra man that can, you know, has a gun and abilities, and, you know, you don't even have to worry about, you know, what the bomb is doing. You just have to defend the little guy, and, you know, it's an even, you know, attack. So very strong ability. And it especially seems to be strong in those 1v1 or 2v2 situations like I showed of the It's Timmy clip. You know, I think that's going to be really strong in those clutch situations. So I can actually see Wingman pairing really well with Phoenix, specifically Phoenix's wall, to get into sight and plant the Spike. So if you think about it this way, Phoenix is an entry, you're the initiator. You know, you guys are pairing up typically in most situations. You know, I think Phoenix and Gekko might be a good pair because of the wall and the wingman planting behavior. So I can see that being a pretty nasty combo. So the Mosh ability seems like it can be used in a very similar manner to Breach's Aftershock, like I said before. Since it's a guaranteed kill in the majority of the Mosh AoE, it'll actually force players out of those rat spots or cubby spots, or, you know, when they're in a tube or something like that. So think about it this way. When you're hitting B on bind and you're on attack, there's that little cubby on the right side of sight. If you just throw a Mosh in there, you're going to force that enemy out anytime you need to, or even back sight, since the Mosh AoE is so big. It can force those enemies out of back sight and out of those, you know, cubby and rat positions. So I can see that being, you know, just as strong as a Breach Aftershock. And it can also be great for post plant. So they're going to have to get off, but your timing with the lineup might have to be pretty precise, because it does take a while to float through the air and then land, activate. And by the time you do that, the spike might be diffused already. So got to be careful with the timing on that one. So like most people are saying, Thrash is potentially an overpowered ultimate ability, not only because of what it does naturally with the 1 charge, but if you pick it up again, it has 2 charges now, and they both have 200 health. So all of that combined seems overpowered. I haven't seen it enough yet to, you know, say for sure if it is or not, but as of right now, it's looking pretty strong. So I can see a bunch of nerfs coming in Gekko's future. So what maps do I think Gekko is going to be good on? This is just speculation, you know, based on, you know, how his abilities work, and especially Wingman. Most of my decisions are based off of the Wingman plant because it's such a strong ability. So number 1, I think Icebox is pretty obvious. You want to use Wingman to plant B, since this is often a very difficult spot to plant on. You know, you normally need a Viper wall, a Sage wall. So now you can just send in Wingman, you know, with a Viper wall. You know, maybe you want to have a Sage wall or a Harbor orb, whatever it might be, to help Wingman plant, and then you don't even have to worry about dying. If Wingman gets shot and dies, you know, the spike is there, but at least you're all still alive and you can fight for the spike again. So I think Icebox B is going to be really strong. Haven, I think it's easy line of sight to bomb sites. I think that's why he's going to be pretty good on Haven as well. A, B, and C, they all have those like easy straight paths towards sight. There's nothing really complicated about it. You can entry with him very easily, so I think Haven's another good map for him. The fact on Lotus you can get Wingman to plant on C from Mound, I think is really strong. That might be something that they fix in the future. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much they want to tune the Wingman plant ability, so we'll see how that plays out in the future. But just like we saw in the show match, you know, B is really easy to plant on as well with Wingman. A is, you know, hit or miss. It seems like a relatively good spot for him to plant as well, but I think really B and C are the 2 main spots where Wingman is gonna shine with that plant ability. Same thing with Pearl, having a relatively difficult B site to plant on. I can definitely see him being used on B a lot, just to plant out in the open or in that back left corner of B site. And yeah, I think he's going to be played there pretty often as well. And that's going to be it for this one. If you enjoy this type of video, leave a like and comment below if you want to see something similar in the future. Subscribe for more guides like this one, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.